All right, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate your patience. It is now 3:08 p.m. We are going to get started with our Finance and Performance Committee hearing. I am Councilman John Bullock, Chair of the committee. I'm also joined by a member of the committee, Councilmember Felicia Porter, and also joined by our temporary staff for the committee, Diane Garrett, who stepped in for Marguerite Curran so graciously, so we appreciate you being here. We do have representatives from the mayor's office, from the council president's office, and of course, Recreation and Parks, as today's topic is our agency briefing for the Department of Recreation and Parks. And again, we're calling on pertinent agency representatives from DCRP to, again, on a quarterly basis, talk about how the department's FY expenditures compared to prior years and provide an update in terms of where we are now in terms of quarterly expenditures. That includes everything, including training, equipment, rec centers, parks, facilities, and pools. And again, around the department's capital investment strategy, operations plan, and funding strategy. So again, at this point, I will turn it over to Director Moore if you want to introduce your team and then get started on your presentation. I will note as Director Moore gets started that there will be some members of the team who are remote. I know that there is an important conference going on, so we appreciate you being here and being flexible in terms of the presentation. So Director Moore, I'll turn it over to you.
Councilman Bullock, Councilwoman Porter, thank you all for having us today. I will say quickly, the clicker is not moving. But here with me today is Ken King, who's our CFO to my right. Directly behind me is Gina Green. She's our Chief of Human Resources. Next to her is Ed Willen, who's our Deputy Director of Administration of Parks. Next to him is Nicole Green, who's our Deputy Director of Administration. One of the newest members to our team is Manuel Gonzalez, who's our Chief of Marketing and Communication, which is back behind me. And then should be online is our Deputy Director of Recreation, Karen Jordan, Chief of Capital, Adam Boardman, and then our Legislative Liaison, Jenny Morgan. With that, sir, I will go ahead and get started. It's not. Yeah. Could you just kind of just tell you? Yep. Okay. All right. I think we got something going on. Oh, yep. Oh, you controlling it. All right, so quickly, if you go back there, you go to our agenda. I believe the request was for us to pretty much report out on where we are as an agency from an operational financial standpoint. So quickly, we'll highlight those physical reports. Spend a little time talking about our comprehensive plan, capital projects, and then our highlights. So first, we're going to jump right into our physical. I think one of our questions on the physical report was staffing overtime 2023 versus 24. I think it's a couple slides up. You have it? Next slide. No. Next slide. All right. So what you can see right now as we look at FY23 to FY24, last year our staffing overtime was listeners looking for a job. We're having a huge job fair this Saturday, our Ready Set Hire at Reed the Church Rec Center, where we're going to be hiring for FTEs as well as our summer help. But as you can see, this year we're at 61 positions, so we're trending in the right direction of filling positions. Next slide. So departmental needs, one of the things that we'll talk about in greater details is this comprehensive plan. But once this plan is completed, which is projected to be done by June of this year, it's going to require the adoption of this plan because this plan is going to really talk about the future of recreation and where we should be investing funding, as well as how we should be operating as an agency. This is, as many may know, this is the first comprehensive plan Baltimore City Rec and Park has ever done. So we're really happy about what we're seeing from the plan. And this supports our Rec 2025 plan, which was our strategic plan, which called for us to look at this from a comprehensive standpoint. From a programming standpoint, we were really grateful to this council and administration, the $800,000 that was allocated for this current budget year. But what we're seeing that we've always knew, but is really showing now in our comprehensive plan, is 72% of our budget is tied to salaries, which leaves us 28% to operate as an agency. The normal average is salaries is around 55% on most budgets, and operating is around 45%. So when I say operating, I'm talking about the money for programs, the money for supplies, anything outside of salaries, all is in that 28% budget. But this is just something that administration understands, and they are working with us and trying to help solve some of this. But this will be something that we have to continue to address. From a training needs standpoint, our agency is trauma-informed care trained. All of our staff has been trained, but we're now working on de-escalation training to expand beyond just the trauma-informed care, so that as incidents arise at our facilities, that our staff can continue to de-escalate situations. We've had some situations where our staff has done an amazing job of de-escalating, but without them being there, this could have been a totally different situation. Next slide. Equipment needs. I believe we've been speaking probably a couple of hearings about the stump grinders. The stump grinder is in progress. We do now have a requisition number for it, so that means that we're moving towards a PO for that to replace one of our stump grinders that stays in the shop. Our forestry team is constantly busy, and we have 2 log trucks, and one of those trucks are in and out of the shop. But I am excited to say today that the equipment has been purchased, and we're just waiting for the contractor to provide us a delivery date. The same thing for our 5-ton truck, as well as a 10-ton truck that we need. And the purpose of the larger 10-ton truck is to help as we continue to have dumpings throughout our parks. We need those bigger trucks to kind of get some of that things. But what I really want to highlight is our focus of going green. We as an agency, conservation is in our vision and our mission, and if we're going to speak about conservation, we got to start looking at how we can be more greener. So we are in talks with DGS. They've tried some vendors. The problem is the vendor's current battery power does not meet the needs of our industrial or commercial needs. But we're hoping that Toro, which is one of the vendors, is going to continue to find ways that they can improve their electrical equipment so that we can move forward with going green. But we don't need equipment where the batteries don't last a full day. So that'll slow down our work. Next slide. Some of the in the Recreational Bureau, mobile rec equipment, one of the things we're really focused on, administration's really been, Curtis, really want to acknowledge the CA, has really been speaking about this mobile recreation. And what mobile recreation is, we know that in all of our communities, we don't have rec centers. So how can we activate those spaces? And so what we're doing is we're investing in vans that will have equipment that we can have activations in communities and neighborhoods. So Councilman Bullock will be reaching out to you and asking you where you would like to have one in your neighborhood. But also, we use gaming trucks a lot. And so when we look at how we can save money, the amount of money that we're spending in renting, it makes sense for us to go ahead and purchase two that we can utilize as part of this mobile activation. So we are requesting and moving that through the procurement process. And then our stage is currently in the shop, and our stage is used a lot. And we saw the impacts of us not having a stage for the latter part of the summer. So while our stage is being repaired, we are strongly recommending and working with DGS that we move forward in replacing our stage because it's beyond its life expectancy. So that's really some of our departmental needs and also some of our equipment needs that our team has identified as these are high, button items that we need to address. So what I'm going to spend time now is really talking about the comprehensive plan, what our consultants have found to this point. And as I stated earlier, this playbook, as we call it, this comprehensive plan is due June of this year. There will be another briefing that will be scheduled for administration and with council as we did earlier in the year to kind of tell you their final findings. But just remind you all of what the purpose of the comprehensive plan. Next slide. There's 3 areas that they're looking at: an operational plan, a capital investment strategy, but also an equitable funding plan. And so what they have been doing is looking at our current operations. We, as part of our REC 2025 plan, was to rewrite our specs, our job descriptions, but also our standard operating procedures. One of that is also working with them as our consultants. So when you look at our operational plan, one of the big areas is staffing plan, making sure that we have an idea for staffing, but then there's these local and national standards that looks at what is an ideal number that should be staffed at your different facilities. But also equitable recreation programming, what programming we're offering and making sure that it's equitable across the communities. When you look at the capital investment strategy, that is more looking at equity in some of our communities where it's been invested in, where other communities where the investment may need to improve. Looking at gap analysis, looking at where our current assets need assets and where we could improve upon. And then finally, investment priorities. One of the things that I'll talk about in a couple of slides is the work that we've done to have every one of our assets now assessed. So not only just our pools, not only is our rec centers, but now all of our parks have been assessed so that we have now a grade and system. We know the conditions of each and every one of those. And between these two, capital investment and operational plan, is to define a plan of how we can fund some of this. So that is what we're going to get from our comprehensive plan. So here's what we've seen right now as far as, next slide. Of course, our total public spending is about $78.1 million compared to our peer cities, which is 84 compared to our aspirational of $143 million. What that equates to for every resident, there's $129 we're investing across the board. But you remember, in that $78 million, majority of that $78 million is in salaries. So even though so I want to highlight that compared to our peer cities of $152, compared to our aspirational cities of $233. So I just want to quickly explain. Peer cities are cities that are more so in line with Baltimore from a population standpoint, like the city of Atlanta, for example. Our aspirational cities are cities that they're similar in size, but there's a large investment that's happening in their recreational systems, like the Seattle King County systems, where there's a lot of recreational opportunities, but there's the funding to support the spending that's happening there. Next slide, please. What this slide, I want to go to the bottom section, which really breaks down maintenance and administration, programming, and capital and land acquisition. Where our capital and land acquisition, we're pretty much balanced with our peer cities. The two I want to focus on is maintenance and administration, where we're at $32 million compared to peer cities that are investing around $48 million. Our maintenance and administration, we're talking about our parks, we're talking about facility maintenance, we're talking about the day-to-day maintenance of our different operations. When it comes to programming, that is a mixture of rec center programming and our outdoor programming, our athletics, where you're seeing we're $26 million in that category compared to our peer cities of 16.4, compared to our aspirationals of 36.3. While the chart shows that there is an increase higher than our peer cities, but the other thing that's not noted here that I want to note is the amount of assets that we carry compared to our peer cities. Based on populations, based on the national average, where there's a number that they say you should, for every one rec center it should equal up to X amount of residents. So a lot of our peer cities, we have 46 rec centers. Most of them have, on average, between 25 and 30. So that number, I highlight that and spend a lot of time there because I don't want that number to be misleading, that we're overspending in programming because we're spending that level because of the amount of programming and activities that we have. All right. Next slide, please. As I stated earlier, we now have this report that has assessed every one of our playgrounds in the city, every one of our parks. So we know the red, the green, the yellow, green being excellent to red being we need to replace tomorrow. And they looked at pavilions, they looked at any asset, benches, trash cans, whatever was in those parks, everything got assessed, and that's now going to be part of this park assessment. Next slide. What I want to note here is while the assessment has determined that 35% of our assets are excellent and 42% are in good condition, but the key is 24% of our assets is either fair, poor, or failing. That's over 1,300 assets. What it's telling us is as we continue to ask for funding and when we're making funding decisions, we have to let data tell us the story. We have to start investing according to the needs of what we're seeing in our communities. And this next slide shows, next slide. This slide tells a stronger story. As you can see, what they're doing here is they're doing site need score. That's based on assessments, but they're also doing now community need score. And between those two, it's going to help us create a priority investment list. And so as you can see in some of our areas, if the darker the red, the higher the need. And when you look at that, I think Councilman Bullock, you will see that District 9 is pretty red right now, right? And then Councilwoman Porter, I believe you're seeing there's some red in your areas too. But I think this is important because as we continue to make these decisions, it is this kind of data that's going to help drive our decisions, but it's also going to be council's and administration support as we make these investments, that everyone understands this is why we're making these investments in our communities. And when it comes to the community needs, that score was determined by the amount of youth in the community, about income, education, health, violent crimes, property density, but also extreme heat. a lot of those communities don't have green space, and they lack trees, right? Planting of trees and those things. So, as you all can see, I'm really excited about really finishing up this comprehensive plan and sharing it with you all to really look at the bigger picture of where we're going. And I think that will answer our questions about what is our capital investment strategy, but also what is our operational plan. Next slide. Now, we get to talk about some exciting projects that's on the way right now. So from a capital standpoint, Riverside Athletic Facility is scheduled to open June of 24. Mary Rodman facility is also under renovations. We're also, beyond just renovating the rec center, we're renovating the plaza and the surrounding areas on the outside. But one of the things I will just tell you quick about some of the decisions to renovate some of these older facilities is the challenges that you face when you start removing things. But we're definitely moving that along. It's scheduled to open June of 24. James D. Gross is one where, as the more we peel back, the more challenges that we face. So now we've had to, that project is continuing, but we're now negotiating scope changes with the contractor that we need to get new POs, change orders, issued so that we can continue that project. Ambrose Kennedy and Patterson Park Pool, I'm so excited. Both those pools are scheduled to open this summer, as we promised last year, and they're both on track and on target to open this year. Next slide. Carroll Park Recreation Center, thanks to the support of South Baltimore Gateway Partnership, that facility, I got a chance to walk it about a month and a half ago. It's going to be an amazing asset that we're bringing back online. It is scheduled to open in June. So as you can see, there's a lot of activities going to be happening in June of reopening. Gwynns Falls trail improvements, that is something that we're working in conjunction with Parks and People. There's been some work done with Parks and People from some state funding that we received. Now we're going to use some additional funding, and that work is getting ready to start as we speak. Chitwell Recreation Center is well on the way. We had that groundbreaking back in October. That's an 18-month project. It's scheduled to open next spring. Parkview Recreation Center should start seeing the building come down any day now. That project's underway, and it's scheduled for completion in spring of 2025. Next slide. Capital projects are starting soon. Walter P. Carter swimming pool will be starting soon, and the target is for that pool to open in summer of 2025. Gardenville Recreation Center is one of the ARPA rec centers that was funded. That is scheduled for groundbreaking on Monday, and that's a 20-month project. It'll be done by spring of 26. Tewander Coldstream pool renovations, that is going to the board for approval on next Wednesday. Again, that's a 12-month project. Both of those pools will be coming back online in 2025. And then we're so excited about the work around our ARPA playgrounds through ARPA funding. Between ARPA funding and LPPI funding, we're replacing 26 playgrounds. We've already replaced 3. Councilwoman, if you recall, one in your district already. Indiana Avenue's already been replaced, right? Hey, see, I got you. But so we're really excited about that, and those playgrounds installations have already started. Cannon Stripe is already, that equipment is in. Elmwood is already in. I believe Elmwood is yours. I believe, Councilman Bullock. I think, or okay. So that is exciting news, because while we're renovating rec centers, replacing playgrounds, and having play spaces for our youth, our young kids, the use is just going to be, a positive opportunity for our youth. Next slide. The final capital update, and then we'll get into some highlights, and then I think I'll quiet down and let you all ask me any questions. But feasibility study. There's request and funding that's been asked for us to determine. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a quick question. This is just, but before you go further, back to the capital projects.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the avenues that I just want the public to really understand, like what consists of a capital project when we talk about these play spaces? We had a few people in the chamber yesterday that were talking about a rec center related to, like, they had asbestos in it. It had so many issues that they're more than likely going to have to demolish it. And so, like, can you speak to, like, how you all assess capital projects when you're thinking about this number?
Yeah, so
And thank you for the question, Councilman Porter. Just really quick, I want to recognize Councilman Schleifer, who just joined as member of the committee. Thank you. Director Moore, please.
Yeah, so when we, capital projects are either renovation projects, but really capital is determined by a dollar amount. $50,000 or more is supposed to be determined as a capital project. When it comes to facility renovations, we've done an assessment of all of our facilities. From that assessment, those facilities were scored, and that's the chart that we're using to address what facilities need to be replaced, what facilities we need to demo. But one of the things that we are slowly discovering, as like the Mary Rodman and the James D. Gross, these older facilities, when they were built, they was built in a time where some of the materials, some of the things, some of the plans was not clear, and there's discoveries of things when they start tearing into these. So we're now starting to decide, do you renovate those or do you replace those?
And talk to me about, like, the environment. So it's not just the actual building, but you're looking at, like, the environmental aspect. I'm thinking of, like, the ground, so, like, any brownfields, doing environmental remediation on some of these. I'm just thinking of one project in particular. There's other issues associated with it outside of, like, just the building. Like, it's the ground that it's actually on.
Yeah, for example, when we built the Milbranch site, we had to do an environmental assessment, and then you have to, from that environmental assessment, your contracts has to develop a plan of how we're going to handle or mediate any kind of environmental issues that you may have. That's the same thing we have to do when it comes to buildings. If there's environmental issues, then we have to do a phase one assessment to determine what has to be done. But legally, we have to do that. And so that's what we do when it comes to these projects as well.
And then one follow-up, as you mentioned assessments, just for clarity, who is performing the assessments? In-house, third party, and if it's in-house, what members of your team are doing that kind of assessment of the rec centers?
All of our assessments have been done by third party. All of our rec centers to this point was done by ERS. Now DGS has a new contractor that we're partnering with to finish those up. Pons and Associates in Atlanta was the one who did all of the park assessments. I think ERS also did all of our pool assessments. So we're having a third party that's coming in and assessing these facilities.
Great. Okay. Continue. Thank you.
This next slide talks about the feasibility study. The feasibility study is something that's been asked by various council members. One, Lillian Jones Recreation Center. We have a contract proposal received by JRS to complete that feasibility study. Recently, also we had Oliver Recreation Center. That facility, for various reasons, was closed. We're also looking at a feasibility study there that's been also done by JRS. And then Councilman Schleifer has been asking for a feasibility study and a rec center in his district. So Interface, who's been doing a lot of work on the comprehensive plan, is who we're going to use to complete the 5th district assessment.
And then how are you making the determinations in terms of which contractors or consultants are doing which assessments?
It just depends on how much of a workload they have. We use our own costs to do this. And JRS is one of our smarter consultants that focus on this. And the reason that we're using Interface is because Interface is already doing work for us from a comprehensive standpoint. All right, moving along. Highlights. So a couple of things I want to highlight. I think we've been, thanks to the support of this council and administration, we now have 5 full-time FTE rangers. And one of the things that Michael and his team has been doing is connecting with the community. They're visiting our larger parks. They're assessing our parks. If they see risk or safety issues, they are doing the necessary. If they can't fix it themselves, they're putting in SRs. But I just want to highlight it's only 5, and we have 267 parks.
What's the rotation of those 5? So, like, are they just, what's the rotation?
So what happens is they are assigned areas and they rotate in those areas. I don't have it in front of me, but I can get that for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if there can be some sort of collaboration with like the Friends group so that not only they are, doing that respective kind of surveillance of the parks, but you're also including like the Friends group into that. So the number of people that are touching that particular park to report those types of issues is also expanding.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for raising that, Councilmember Porter. One other follow-up as far as the Friends Group, and it relates to something you were mentioning earlier, Director Moore, around equity, because we know that some parks are going to have been getting more love and attention and interest from Friends Groups and other ones haven't. Can you talk a little bit about, the kind of relationships you have with Friend Groups and what that looks like and how we kind of grow that?
Yes, sir. We have quite a few friend groups, and that's why one of the reasons, as I said, establish a relationship with friend groups. They, at this point, have mostly spoken to the leaders of each one of those friend groups, because we can't do all this work, as I shared with you on some slides earlier, when we start comparing numbers and staffing and our budget. So we need the support of our friend groups. And so beyond just the partnerships and collaborations, we have we have a grant that we use from our POS funding each year that different friends groups can apply for, that can help with a project that they may do for their particular park. I can't think of what that grant is called right now, but yes, the POS grant, but it's a friends group grant. So we need their support, we need their help, and we also have our Weed Warriors program that our forestry team trains our volunteers on. So forestry plays a role, and then we have collaboration and partnerships of individuals like Blue Water Baltimore and others who help us by planting trees throughout the year. So we do quite a bit in collaboration and partnership. Park and Play grant, that's the grant that we have. All right, next slide. So as hopefully you all had an opportunity to go to our Charm City Lights this year. This was our first year, overwhelming response, over 8,000 cars, but on our walk nights, we had over 4,200 people to either walk or ride a bike. And so what we learned from that as we continue to expand on our Charm City Lights is not only car nights, but looking at adding more pedestrian nights. So this upcoming year, we'll have more pedestrian nights. This year, it was only 4 weeks, but next year, it will expand to the full 6 weeks of operations at Druid Hill Park. But it's, I got emails personally from patrons just thanking us for this and asking us, please, let's not let this go away. We really enjoyed this. So we're really looking forward to year 2 of our Charm City Lights, and we're going to continue to expand our route to eventually we'll cover most of Druid Hill Park.
And appreciate the activity and the interest. Can you speak to the cost for the program this year and then what you anticipate moving forward?
Yeah, so this past year, we, I think that the total cost for the installation or?
For the installation and just the overall cost for the event, yeah.
So the total installation cost was about $700,000 for installation and for the purchase of the lights. I can get back to you with what was our total operational cost for the event. And what we hope to do going forward is to bring on sponsors to help cover some of that cost. And there's already been some conversations that are going to take place once we get our ethics waiver. I think going forward that would be the benefit of that. But it's something that the community really supports and want us to continue to offer. Next slide. Cookies and Caboose. The first year, first 2 years, it was at Cahill Recreational Center. This year, we expanded to have it and host it at Middle Branch Recreational Facility. We had about 400 participants or attendees at the Middle Branch site. We saw over 650 kids, and it was a day for kids to come be with Santa, watch Polar Express, run around, play games. It was a really nice event, and we continue to want to grow that, but that was one of the complaints why we expanded, is because people wanted one on another location, so they'll have more than one day to do that. The next slide. The next slide is we are continuing to move our STEM education and now focus on STEM. And this year, we had 3 rec centers that represented Baltimore City Rec and Park at the first LEGO competition. It was the robotics competition. So we had teams from Bentlow, Curtis Bay, and Rita Church that represented the agency, and we're really excited about that opportunity and continuing to grow our STEM education across the city. Next slide. Partner Pumpkin, this is our 4th year of Partner Pumpkin. It's an opportunity for kids to get candy at Safeway. They get to ride through the trail. They get spooked a little bit, but they have really enjoyed that. This year, we saw over 2,000 attendance. And we're going to continue to grow Partner Pumpkin, but that's just another one of these large activations and events that we've been doing. And with that, I will tell you all thank you for this briefing and answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. I do have a couple of questions before I open it up to the committee members. So you had mentioned on the slide talking about staff overtime, and I really appreciated the event. I know Charm City Games was a large event we did before, and then this past year we did a track and field event at Frederick Douglass High School, and it was well attended and it got a good response. But you had mentioned that that the staff overtime increase of $1 million again was connected to the events and activities, which I get. And I think what's maybe related to that, as we look at the funding or the funding in terms of BCRP, that 72%, as you mentioned, goes towards salaries, 28 toward operational costs. But then you also said something about the typical split being about 55-45. That split, that 55-45, is that typical for Baltimore or typical for the industry across?
That's the industry standard.
Okay, and has it ever been close to that in Baltimore in your time, or has it always been just that kind of over 70%?
In my 7 years of being here, that number has been trending in the same direction.
Okay, so it's been trending up, but or is it
Well,
because of?
it's been trending. I can tell you that I can go back and look at the other years so I can give you a more accurate answer, because one of the things we have seen also is we've been seeing an increase in our budget, but there again, majority of that is still spending staffing costs.
Got it. And then back to, again, it's related to staffing and also the overtime. The issue, and I'm glad to see more events, is the challenge or is the cost associated with events that are happening at off times, whether it be weekends or evenings, or is it just the man and woman power period?
It's going to be a man and woman power, because as you recall, even the track event, you saw how large that event was. You saw how many people it was. It takes a large number of people. So beyond of, even if it was during the, those normal hours, that means that you'll have to pull some of that staff from somewhere else as well.
Got it. Councilman Porter, go to you first, or Councilman Schleifer, do you have any questions? I'm sure you do. But.
Yes, thank you. So, Director, I was looking at the presentation. Do all rec centers get a feasibility study before the projects are proceeded with?
In your case, sir, the reason we're doing a feasibility study because there have not been a rec center there. One of the things I think we have to be extremely wise of, and this comprehensive plan is going to talk more about this, is that we need to assess the assets that are in our area. And in this case, when we're talking about building a new facility, yes, we do need to do a feasibility study to determine. In the case of Lydian Jones, yes, we're doing a feasibility study. So it really depends on where we are in that process, sir.
So, I missed which one you're talking about. So you have how many rec centers that are going to be built now that you have a plan for?
How many rec centers is being built?
Yeah, you have a plan for 1 or 2 of them right now?
Right now, we have Gardenville Recreation Center.
Which
and
one?
Gardenville Recreation
Gardenville.
Center that's having this groundbreaking. And according to our assessment, it was the worst facility that we had operating. And we have also Curtis Bay facility that's going to be replaced.
Okay. Did you do a feasibility study?
No,
in
sir,
either
we did
one?
not do. We did an assessment of that facility, sir.
Okay. So, how come in my district there's a separate process?
It's not a separate process, sir. There's 2 rec centers that's also, there's a feasibility study being done that's currently closed, which is Lydian Jones and Oliver. Your district, while you don't have a physical rec center in your district, there's a rec center that's less than 2 miles from your residents, which is C.C. Jackson. But what I believe was asked of our agency, sir, during the hearing, and by administration, and I believe you too, sir, I'm not sure fully, was to start by doing a feasibility study to not only determine if you need a rec center in that district, but where to build it, sir. We don't want to we want to make sure that when we build a rec center, that we build it in the proper location.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my request. My request was to have a rec center, being that you guys have about 50 rec centers. Thank you. You have about 50 rec centers in the city. You have multiple ones in every single district, and the 5th district is the only one without a rec center. And, you know, that's been dragging on now. I ask about it every single year. You know this. We've spoken about this since the day I met you. You know, we hear plans for new centers being opened up in different parts of the city. And I heard you mentioned equity multiple times in your presentation, but there's no equity for the children in the 5th district. And I guess I'm just curious why the goalpost just keeps moving and why these items haven't been done. And even once there was a commitment to even do a study, you know, when I ran into you a few weeks ago, you weren't even familiar with it. And so the question I have is, how do you determine where you're putting rec centers, and who decided to build rec centers anywhere when you only have one district that's a rec desert in the entire city? Like, how is that decision made?
Well, sir, I can't speak for who sat in this seat before me, because if you recall, there's only been 2 rec centers that's been built since I've been here, and those was already in the budget to be replaced. The other 46 rec centers, you have to speak to the previous people that was in that seat. So I don't know how they determine where rec centers will be built. I would assume maybe by population, sir. I can't tell you why there was never been a rec center built in your district. But what I can tell you, sir, is that when we spoke a couple weeks ago, I said that there's some things that may be in our budget I'm not familiar with. Give me a day to respond, and I didn't even get a day to respond, sir. So I just would hope that if you ask me for something, if I don't have an answer, because I don't think I'm gonna have every answer, and I assured you I was gonna get back to you, that you would have gave me time to respond. That's what I would have asked for.
Let me interject and ask a question that may be a little more productive. So the 5th district study that's being completed by Interface Consulting, what is the time frame on that, and what do you expect to be the outcome of that?
What I plan to be the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what the desire is, but I mean, if you talk about the timing of that, just to allay some of the concerns that have been raised.
I mean, most feasibility studies take approximately 12 months to be done.
You said
12
months.
12 months. And so what I can do is I can get you a more detailed timeline to that with Interfacer.
So how many rec centers were planned and are planned to be built since you've been here?
How many rec centers have been planned to be built since I've been here? Let's see.
And I will admit, as you asked a question, it's a bit out of the scope of the meeting, but I understand why you're asking that, but I want to make sure we're getting all the questions answered from members of the committee, too.
I mean, yeah, look. Right, I think it plays, it's very relevant to as far as like when we talk about performance of the agency, you know, how decisions are being made and where decisions are being made. And so certainly the role of your agency is to provide recreational opportunities equitably across the city, and we've seen that hasn't been the case. I'm obviously a glaring example. I mean, different people have come to different conclusions. I'm just trying to understand who made the decisions to build centers. Like, who makes those decisions? How is that done? So that I could understand that better, why, being the only rec desert in the entire city, there's no rec center being built, but yet there's ones, and I have no problems with them being built in other parts of the city. I don't even know where they are physically being located. I'm just not understanding how a decision was made to build a rec center anywhere when you have the largest area that's a desert. My entire district is a rec desert, and so to tell me that from 2 miles away from part of my district there's a rec center, that's obviously not reasonable. When I mapped out the rec centers in previous years, you have multiple areas that have multiple rec centers within a mile of each other. So who made the decision to build these rec centers that you are now going to be building since you've been here? Do you make that decision?
It's an agency-wide decision. It's based on the conditions of existing facilities, sir. And one of the things I will tell you, and this is, goes back to what the comprehensive plan is going to do. It's going to define, and again, I can't speak to why, in your case that you're sharing about facilities that was built, several facilities in the facility. Again, that precedes me.
I'm just talking about since you've been here.
But since I've been here, those facilities are being built based on an assessment that's been done to determine the condition of those existing facilities. While at the same time, I felt that this agency needed a comprehensive plan because there was many master plans that was created before my time, and that is not a comprehensive plan. So what we're doing now is we're completing this comprehensive plan. What we're doing now is we're doing a feasibility study for you in your district, but the study is more than just should a rec center be there, but where should that rec center go, which the feasibility study is going to be more detailed to tell you about where the population trends and also what is the ideal location to build a rec center versus building a rec center 2 blocks from each other.
So can you just clarify, you're saying the decisions that you've made have been based on the conditions of the center. So when you say you're building a new rec center, are those renovations or are those new builds?
Those are a mixture of both, sir. The Miller Branch recreational facility that was built was promised to that community in 2013. When I arrived, that funding was already committed, sir. That rec center was completed. It was built. Cahill Recreational Center, sir, that was built. It was built before my arrival. It was finished during my arrival, sir. The first rec center that we have physically built based on funding and also partnerships was the Parkview Recreation Center that's under construction now. And then the 2 rec centers that we're currently doing is based on a feasibility study, an assessment of those current conditions of those facilities that need to be replaced.
So can you just answer, so those the last 3 ones you just talked about, right? These last 3 ones. So are these rebuilds? Are there existing ones there now and you're knocking it down and rebuilding, or are these renovations, or are these brand new ground up rec centers?
These are rec centers that are going to be replaced. They're going to be brand new rec centers. Yes, sir.
So are they existing rec centers in those?
They're existing rec
There's a
centers.
center that's there. They had to build a new one.
That's my question.
Yes.
So-
Parkview is an existing rec center. Curtis Bay is an existing rec center. Gardenville is an existing rec center that Curtis Bay is still operational. The other 2 we had to close, and they're being replaced.
Okay, so
So
none of the rec
new.
centers are brand new?
No.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
And then, got some more questions, but I don't want to just keep going down the rabbit hole. So is it related to this?
Well, I mean, I keep asking questions until I get an
well,
answer.
no.
But I have other questions if you want to ask.
Yeah,
your
let me
question.
ask one, and then we'll come back. So Director Moore, you had mentioned the mobile recreational equipment, and that there will be a district input. Can you talk more about what that mobile recreational equipment looks like, what it is, and the process through getting that into different communities?
Yeah, I will start, but I think Karen Jordan is online. She's the one who's been working closely with this, so I will probably yield to her. But when you think about a mobile recreational center, you're thinking we'll have a van, it'll have all kinds of different activities and games, and so we'll come into a community and we'll activate that space. So it could be balls, it could be hula hoops, it could be jump ropes, it could be other activities or games that the kids could play until we have our own gaming trucks. We'll be partnering with a vendor that will be providing gaming trucks. We will probably have music there for the kids. So it's really mobile activities that we could bring to that site and just activate a space. And it could be a green space, it could be a park, it could be if you say, hey, I want to close a block off and I want to have the kids play in the street. So it really depends on the activities for that particular day.
I think we're looking for the person that you had identified. I don't know if we see them.
Who was that person?
Karen Jordan. They may all be together. Her and Jenny may be
Don't
together.
see her. But you essentially see the mobile recreational equipment as a stand-in for the game trucks. I mean, essentially that's what we're talking about. You look at those equivalent. We're not talking about again, just like hoops and stuff like that.
No, we're it could be in some of our mobile activations. We have portable backboards, so we may bring out the basketball goals. We may we have one trailer that we're going to try to fix the goal on it, but it actually have a basketball hoop on the truck itself. So it will be a day that we can really have kids recreate in a fun way, a safe way, without being in a rec center.
And would that be driven by community requests? I mean, how do you envision that the rollout of those, not only now, but in the future?
So what our recreation team is going to do is I want them to work closely with the community association as well as the council. So if there's an event that you may be having in your community and you would like us to come out and activate that space for in conjunction with you, having our team just reach out and establish that calendar. And they're working on this calendar now, so we'll be ready to go by the summer. So again, Karen is the one who's been driving this, but if she's not on, I can definitely get you an answer, sir, to more details of how you go about asking us to come out to your neighborhood or district.
Okay, and one other request before we go to other members, should be quick, I hope. But you mentioned the existing stage and it being replaced. Obviously, I know, especially during the summer, there's a lot of requests for that stage. Can you talk about, one, the cost of the replacement of it, but then also, we know the heavy usage. Has there been thought to having more than one, or is that infeasible? Can you talk about the cost of the stage and what's possible there?
The approximate cost of the stage is about $150,000, is what I've heard from our team, and the more stages you have, the more manpower you're gonna need, because you know those stages have hydraulic lifts. You got to have the right people. You got to have a CDL driver that's driving it, and so we've just tried to stay with the one. If anything, we just replace the one that we have, and then maybe if we can get the old one, once it's repaired, it could be eventually a backup, just in case we come into a situation where we need to.
No, thanks for adding that additional detail. Councilmember
did.
Porter and then Schleifer.
Yep. So one of the things that I know we've been talking about in South Baltimore is really creating multimodal spaces that include rec centers. Can you? I know there was a plan that you all were developing, like with Enoch Pratt, with the recreational centers. Can you speak to kind of where we are in that process and how that process is going to be deployed to our newer rec centers? The reason why I ask that is because if we are investing the significant amount of money, a significant amount of funds within each of these districts, I want to make sure that they have multimodal use and they actually address like major needs in the community. So we're talking about a food desert, we're talking about a banking desert. So can you speak to that, Director?
Yeah, so you're right. We've been partnering with Enoch Pratt Library to look at how we can do some joint space opportunities. But we're also looking for other partners that we can also collaborate with to offer recreational opportunities. All right. For example, if we look at our Middleburn site, it's heavily used, but how do we activate that space even more and getting other partners that may want to come? I know I have a site where a gentleman once a month, he comes to that facility and he gives food away to the community, and we partner with him on that as well. So how we can make these facilities multi-use and collaborating with different partners is one of our focus areas.
And Nina, this is specifically for the mayor's office. So the city and the influence of the mayor's office can kind of put some influence on some of these operators that we have within our city that need to utilize those public-private partnerships a little bit better to be community-centered. And one, for example, that I'm thinking of is Bank of America. In South Baltimore, we currently don't have any banks. And so I'm wondering where and how the influence of the mayor's office can bring a mobile bank or a ATM to that particular Middle Branch facility. Like, what does that look like? And so I want us to think out the box and use our influence in a little bit more kind of targeted way to address some of these issues, like bringing a food market, like bringing a bank to some of these rec centers that we are building. And then also, subsequently, they can add funding to these respective projects that would reduce public dollars into these projects.
No, I think it's just an excellent point. So I'm glad you raised that. Councilor Schleifer.
Yes. On to another topic that we've been discussing for a while about the stump grinding. So I heard in your presentation that we're getting a stump grinder now. How many stumps have you guys been grinding a year? Because it seems like every hearing we've had, the stump grinder's either been out of commission or it's on order or something along those lines. So how many have our in-house crews grinded, this year, last year, the year before?
I can get you that number, sir, but I can tell you again, this goes back to the comments I made earlier. When you compare a city of our size and the staffing that we have, I believe we have, how many crews do we have right now in stump grinding there? We have 2 grinders, two in-house crews. We have 1 grinder that spends more time in the shop. That's the one we've been working to get replaced, and we're happy to see that that's moving so we can get it replaced. But that's 2 crews that's in-house, and we also have an outside contractor. But I will make sure that you get those numbers, sir, of what we've done the last couple of years and how many stumps we are grinding.
Yeah, if you can get that from the in-house crews, and then separately, how many we've outsourced?
Yes, sir.
So we're logging that as a committee request, so thank you.
In-house and external. Okay?
Yeah, per
Yes,
year
sir.
for the past 3 years.
Yes, sir. You said 3 years, sir? I'm just trying to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I got one quick one, and then we'll come back to you, Schleifer. So, and this is related to something that Councilman Reporter had also mentioned as well. So I'm looking at, back to our slide around the rec centers are under construction and looking at Carroll Park, and obviously that's very near and dear to Councilman Reporter and myself as well. And you mentioned on the slide is the partnership with South Baltimore Gateway project. So part of the reason why I raised that is for you to talk about partnerships in terms of these renovations of rec centers, and then related to that is also the funding going forward. So for instance, I think about the Greater Model Rec Center in Southwest in our district, and the fact that you have a relationship with the Southwest Partnership, Southwest Sports and Fitness Alliance, but there are gaps in terms of operational funding and what that looks like. Because again, we can have a rec center, but making sure again that you have the funding there. So can you talk about partnerships not only with South Baltimore Gateway, but then also with some of our other partners too, and how that relates to ongoing funding and support?
So I'll talk about 2 in particular. I'll start with the Harlem Park Recreation Center. Harlem Park Recreation Center, which is in your district, was closed. In collaboration with the University of Maryland Medical Systems, University of Maryland Medical Systems provided all the capital costs to renovate, upgrade, and furnish the facility. In exchange, we committed to operating the facility, similar to what's happened at Carroll Park. South Baltimore Gateway Partnership is providing all of the capital to do the constructions, the furnishings, the whole 9, and in exchange, we're committing to operations. And thanks to this past year's budget, between administrations and this council, we have the staffing positions so that that facility will be operational with the proper amount of staffing that's needed to operate. And so when it comes to those partnerships, it is important that if we find the funding to repair or replace, then we got to be able to operate, because that is their commitment. Now, the Greater Model is uniquely different. That group wants to raise the funding and they want to operate it themselves. So that is not the same as what we've seen with the other 2 relationships that we had with Carroll Park as well as Harlem Park Recreational Center. So we'll be more than happy to advise, but we have no operational cost to support that because of the arrangements that they would like to operate that facility.
No, thanks for the clarity. So you look at it more as an advisory, given the funding and management.
Yes.
Got it. Councilman Schleifer?
Yeah, so the last plan that you guys had, I think it was like a 5-year plan, right? Was that?
Rec 2025 is a 5-year strategic plan. It had nothing to do with our comprehensive. It looked more at our operational, but yes, sir.
No, but the previous plan was a 5-year?
It's a 5, yes, from 2020 to 2025, the Rec 2025 plan, yes, sir.
Okay, and have you guys done a review of how the execution of that plan has gone, what the successes were, what the failures were, what still needs to be done that was in that?
Yes, so we're assessing that plan now as we're getting close to the year 2025. to determine what things we have accomplished. One of the things that we had wanted to accomplish was the comprehensive plan. Another thing that we wanted to accomplish was reimagining how our scope of work, our job descriptions, finishing up our SOPs. A lot of those things are in play now, but we are evaluating that plan so that we can start developing our 2030 plan from our 2025 plan.
Gotcha. And can you provide that performance plan, like that review, to the committee when you have that?
Yes, sir, I can.
And when do you anticipate that being ready?
I can get you a definite what we've done, but there is a dashboard that's active now that tells you where we are in the different processes that you can look at readily, but I'll make sure that you get the plan. I can follow up and get you a definite date of when I can get you more detail.
Okay. And then one other thing, if you don't mind, if you can just do me a favor and send over a copy of that plan. I was trying to find it in my inbox. I couldn't find the old 5-year plan. So if you can just forward that over.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do anyone else on the committee needs the plan as well? So I'll just send you, Nina, and then you can
We'll
just get
send it to the entire council.
Perfect. Thank you. That's helpful. And then back to equipment needs. I mean, I'm glad that Councilman Schleifer mentioned the stump grinder. Obviously, that's a big concern for a lot of us. But then also you'd mentioned the 10-ton truck for dumping or to deal with dumping. And the purchase it's already happened, just pending delivery. Can you talk about the utilization of that? Obviously, I think about some places like Leon Day Park. There are other ones where there have been hot spots for dumping. How you look at utilizing that, and then the staffing plan and costs around that too.
Well, when it comes to the truck, I mean, of course, a 10-ton, we got to have a CDL driver. We have to have other equipment because what we're seeing when we go to some of these dumping sites, and most of these are targeted either by our rangers as they go to these different parks, they see them, or if we're going to 311 request. But some of these things have furniture, some of these things have tires, so you got to be able to have something. And we're just thankful to our collaboration partnership with DPW that they've helped us a lot with these. And so that will be our plan. Continue to address, SRs. Continue to ask for support from our sister agency like DPW if it's a project that's going to take more than the manpower that we have. But we don't have a dedicated crew. What we do is we have our different park districts have so many members as part of that manpower for that entire district, and that district may consist of 60 to 70 parks. So when it comes to doing that cleanup, it is getting that crew along with like our heavy equipment operating others if needed to help clean that up. Ed, did I miss anything on that?
We do have a manager that's responsible for the illegal dumping program, and he coordinates with the staff throughout the other districts in order to keep that program going.
I'd love to be in contact with that manager. So again, I think that would be great, just so folks know who the point of contact is for some of those things. But I know there's processes for it. Councilmember Porter, please.
Yeah, so another inquiry that I have is drug use and syringe use, and particularly in some of our play spaces, neighbors are setting fire to playground equipment. Can you all speak to kind of the public safety measures that you all are taking? I know the park rangers are just coming online, but what other public safety measures are you all taking? Are we looking at camera usage? Are we looking at safe disposal sites? Can you speak to that?
So that is a really good question, and it is sad that we have to sit here and talk about people setting play spaces on fire, right? So what we have to do is continue to work with our sister agency at BPD. If these things are happening, we do coordinate with BPD. If our rangers see it, that's one thing. We've started discussing the possibility, and I don't know if he's here, but we start talking about the possibilities of cameras. Is there opportunities for cameras that can be in parks that has a technology that you don't have to have someone changing out the SD card like every 2-3 days? So that is something that is ongoing. We're continuously talking about our lighting, what lights and what improvements we can make for lighting. And then third is we just got to continue to ask our community engagement team to connect with communities and say, if you see something, please please call 911. Please let us know if you're seeing stuff. But it's an effort that we're going to have to continue to be ongoing, but it is a challenge. And it's sad when I hear that we've had a playground that someone has decided they want to set a fire.
And more importantly, with the safe disposal sites, we're noticing that, and this is not just in South Baltimore, like I've heard this over East Baltimore, just drug use in general, drug paraphernalia in general. How are you all utilizing hazardous waste remediation efforts on our park play spaces, particularly like in the granular rocks? Like, I've walked on some of these park spaces where I've seen like needles, syringes, and vials, like in the grounding of the park where children are playing. How are you all? So I know you all do like remediation efforts from illegal dumping and things of that nature, but can you speak to how you all are reconciling those hazardous waste issues?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is we're partnering with the health department. We're getting ready to put a kiosk in Carroll Park in conjunction with the health department. We are working with the community too, and then Ed, I'll yield to you, but training our staff of when they see it. How they need to handle those needles as well. So Ed, can you talk a little bit about what we're doing with that kiosk and the needles and the things that we're seeing in parks?
Well, we're still waiting to hear back from the health department in regards to the kiosk, but in regards to training, we have worked with the health department. They provided us with a presentation, and they conducted the initial training for our staff. I believe Mr. Dorsey Skinner was the one that has been in contact with the health department, and he in turns provides that training on an annual basis to our staff. And the training covers sharps and syringe collection, storage, and also disposal. And we work with the health department to get those containers. When we run out of the containers, then we use what they recommend for our staff to pick up.
So as you can see, Councilman, we're making sure our staff is properly trained to handle these when they have them, and that they have the necessary containers that they can place these needles in.
Councilor Slifer, do you have a question? I believe we do have some folks who may be here to testify. If I mispronounce your name, please forgive me, but I will go in the order that I see, and then if there's anyone else who would like to present, I will say that as well. So we'll say James Holmeister. Did I get that right? So just please come forward, and when you get to the podium, please press the button to the right, and it will light up for you.
Yeah, all right. Hey, everybody, appreciate you all giving me a chance to speak today. My name is James Holtzmeister. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Skate Park of Baltimore. I assume when I say that name, Director Moore recognizes it, yeah. In any event, I'm here to just speak briefly about our efforts to build a skateboard park in Easterwood Park in West Baltimore. We've been working on this project in conjunction with the community since roughly 2019. We have a wonderful relationship with Baltimore Recreation and Parks. We certainly respect Director Moore, Adam Borman, all the folks that we've worked with over the years. We recognize the difficult job they're trying to do, the sheer number of parks they're trying to take care of with limited funds. We understand this, right? Having said that, we did work with Baltimore Recreation and Parks to develop a skate park project in Easterwood Park through the course of 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, right? There was funding allocated in the city budget in FY20 and FY 2022 for this project, a total of $1.15 million, right? This would have covered the construction of a skateboard park, which has already been designed, which we gained funding from the Tony Hawk Foundation to subsidize the planning for this project based upon the promise from Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, right? So we had all the plans together. We were about 2 months away from breaking ground on this project, and we had a nice little meeting with Director Moore, Senator Antonio Hayes, where they told us that this just wasn't going to happen. They didn't give us much explanation at the time. When we pressed them for further explanation, they said that that money needed to be reallocated to address other concerns in Easterwood Park. Since that time, we've monitored activity in Easterwood Park. We've even donated skateboard ramps to that park, spending $5,000 of publicly developed money to support skateboarding in that park. And you know what? We've seen no money spent in that park to this point. This money has essentially disappeared, $1.15 million. Right? And so again, we understand the vagaries of city government and budgetary concerns, but we want to know what happened to this money, what happened to this skateboard park, what is happening to this community and their park that has seen nothing happen since this time, right? This is our basic question. This is simply what we're trying to get to the bottom of. We'd love to see this community have a wonderful park, whether it contains a skate park or not. Right? This is our basic question. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have or offer any further comments if you guys would require them. Otherwise, I've said my piece.
Well, thank you, Mr. Holzmeister.
Certainly. I
I'll
appreciate
have some
those.
follow-ups for Rec and Parks. When I saw Doc Cheatham come in, I figured
he's-
that the
yeah,
issue
he's
would come
there,
up.
right?
Yes. And good afternoon, sir. I did see another name on the list, and unfortunately, I have bad handwriting, and so I can't make out the letters, but I see the initials look like they're CB. If you could come and introduce yourself and tell us your name, please. Thank you.
Sorry about the chicken scratch.
Same
can you guys
way.
hear me? All right. Allergies are getting to me, so I apologize for that as well. Hello, I'm Sosie Brown. Well, Chrissy Brown, but I go by Sosie. I'm a CNA, GNA, a professional skateboarder, and an advocate for the skate park of Baltimore. I'm also the daughter of Warren A. Brown, attorney at law. I just want to start by saying this is the third year that the plans for the skate park promised to the community of Easterwood has not been in the Rec and Parks capital budget. A promise was made and funding was committed by Baltimore City Rec and Parks, and they were quoted in the Washington Post in 2021 saying that the project was fully funded and shovel-ready. Yet in 2022, the plans were unexpectedly called off without an explanation. The community wants their elected leaders and government officials to keep their promise. The community has yet to see new plans for Easterwood Park, and no work has been done. The site-specific plans for the skate park were completed and paid for. The community wants our elected officials and government representatives to show us the plan. 2 years of back and forth finger-pointing between Rec and Parks and Senator Hayes, with no one willing to take responsibility nor accountability. Lies and misrepresentations were made about the desires of the community, and we want accountability and action. The facts are that $300,000 in city general funds were committed in the FY 2020 budget, and $850,000 was committed in the fiscal year 2022 budget, of which $350K was city and $500K was state. In total was $1,150,000. No additional funding has been committed from the city or the state in the fiscal year 2023, 24, nor 25 budget. Why has there been no additional funding to complete the necessary improvements and the skate park? And actually, more importantly, why can't ARPA funding be used for the Easterwood Playground updates and overall improvements that were said to be needed 2 years ago that have still not been done or even initiated? Why use the money allocated specifically for the skate park? And lastly, I just want to say, where is the money now? How will it be spent and when? It's beyond begging at this point. You know, we shouldn't have to beg for something that was promised to us. Let's restore the full amount necessary for the construction of the skate park. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Brown, too. Before I go to Rec and Parks, is there anyone else who want to testify who has not signed up? Of course, Doc Cheatham, please come join us if you want to come.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I did have a written speech, but I think the two folks before me definitely did us great service. Sadly enough, I have to tell you that our kids know that they were promised this park almost 3 years ago. And the actions that we see that are unfortunately happening in our community today, we think in part are due to the lie that was told to our community that we had not approved of a skateboard park. Well, in the document that was printed September 30th, 2020, that was a plan that my community, Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association, took 3.5 years to create. We brought it before planning, and planning approved of it. On page 32 of that 64-page document, it lists what are the priorities of Matthew Henson, Easterwood area. And on number 10, there are about 11 issues there. On number 10, it clearly prints that skateboard park was listed, including improvement for a recreation center, but skateboard park is specifically mentioned in that document, page 32, dated September 30th, 2020. That basically says that the senator is not telling the truth. But then we took it even further because he went on the news and told folks that we could not find signatures within a 2.5 block radius. That day, it rained, so we waited till Saturday. On that Saturday, we created a list of residents who live within a 3-block radius around the park area. Over 250 people who live in the area signed that document. So we documented in response to the lie that Antonio Hayes, Senator, told that we didn't have neighbors that wanted it. We documented. We tried to get that document to Antonio Hayes at a community meeting. The Baltimore Brew clearly took the right picture because you see us trying to hand Antonio Hayes the petitions that substantiated that our community wanted. And we're sad to say that, our kids know that they have been lied to. Not just the community, but they know that they have been lied to. We've had, every 6 months, we have a major event there. And I was real excited because on the July 24th, 2 years ago, skateboarding became an Olympic event in the world. Number one skateboarder in the world is an African American. And it reminded me so much of Arthur Ashe, who I knew, that when he ended up winning Wimbledon, our kids of my color began to understand that they could do the same thing Arthur Ashe could do. And what we did, we had a big screen TV, we had skateboarding, we gave probably away $5,000 worth of skateboards. We did a big screen showing of the opening day of the Olympics. And of course, unfortunately, the number one skateboarder in the world got injured and he was not there, but our kids got to see what skateboarding looks like, and someone that looked just like them was skateboarding. Well, there's no place in the state of Maryland where black kids skateboard. They got to go to other communities. And we spent all this time just to have a state senator lie and say that our community did not want it when there are two substantial documents that said it. But we also tried to give that document to the mayor. We gave him the document, the document one that says that it was a master plan of Matthew Henson to have a skateboard park, that it was in fact a petition that was signed from the neighbors who lived around it, and it shows their addresses that they wanted it. But today, we're sad to say that in December, we tried to get the state's attorney to come. Now, what does the state's attorney have to do with this? Well, we informed the state's attorney because we are the biggest single community in the city of Baltimore. We have 36,000 people in the Matthew Henson area. There is no community bigger than I am. We have a 0 rate of homicides. Safe Streets is not here. 1+1, Muncie, none of them are in our community. We have former felons who carry out the program that I created where we deal with homicides. But guess what? December, we tried to invite the state's attorney to come so we could unveil to him what was happening in our neighborhood. We informed all the people there. We have football coaches, basketball coaches, boxing coaches, all came to Fulton Avenue where we were unveiling what we call a state of emergency. And at that meeting, we informed them, this is in February 21st, John Lewis's birthday. We called for a state of emergency because we announced that 23 kids had opened up a house and they were basically carjacking cars out of our area. Okay, we're telling you the kids are responding. They know they've been lied to. They know they have been neglected. And the kids are beginning to find other things to do rather than try to do something that we asked to bring a skateboard. And I will close with this. Saturday, I'm in New York on tomorrow, but Saturday, every 6 months, we do an event at our community. And it basically gives thousands of dollars of skateboards to our kids. We introduce them every 6 months to skateboarding. We give them skateboard equipment. We give them helmets. We give them arm pads to let them know this is an activity where it only takes one person to do it. You don't have to have a baseball team or basketball team. And of course, we have the oldest baseball league of black folks in America. I ain't say in Maryland, in America. I was one of the first players that ever played there, which was James Moser. We're saying if we give our kids the right opportunities, they will do the right thing and stay out of trouble. And we're saying it is a great injustice to have the biggest community in the city of Baltimore. We have 36,000, even Patapsco, love my folks down there, they're 35,000. We're a little bit bigger than they are. And our kids have no recreation. The only time our rec center is usually open is on Sundays. That's because they have church services there. You go there this afternoon, yeah, I could see the kids in there playing anything. Our kids need something to do. And that program that we presented approved of both an improvement of the recreation center and the establishment of a skateboard park. And we're saying all we're asking for is let our black kids get what other kids have. It's a great partnership. Two totally diverse communities. I know it's not happening anywhere in Maryland. Two totally diverse communities. Matthew Henson and Hamden, totally black, totally white. We've been meeting for 5 years together. We have developed a partnership because kids don't worry about what they look like. They come together for recreation and music and things like that. We know this will bring a win-win for both communities, but sadly enough, we have a recreation and parks that don't give a damn about our black children. And the black children are going to retaliate. They continue doing things. We had the largest number of deaths last year. Homicides went up 28% in our neighborhood. It's not an accident that kids are responding this way. They know they've been lied to. Go to Carver High School, the oldest football field in the state of Maryland, built 1958. You can't even run on the track because it's not a legal track. The kids know they are being neglected in our neighborhood. And I'm saying we got to make a change. Things are only going to get worse, not better. I'm sorry I was so
No,
long.
I will say I appreciate your passion because I know you care about the community. And I say as a father of two sons, keeping them busy, keeping them involved in recreation activities, keeping them running around is so important. And as you mentioned, James Moser, so proud James Moser Field in our community. So I appreciate you and others also talking about this issue of passion. And so I do want to then double back to Rec and Parks to get their response. But again, thank you for bringing that today.
Thank you all for having us.
Of course.
I'll start, and I have Adam, I believe, is on the call, but I can say that any money that's been allocated for Easterwood is still in our budget. I can tell you where we are with the things in the original plan. There is a plan that's been discussed for a skate park, an initial plan. However, there's additional things that are needed that's of immediate concern. One, a playground. That playground is going to get replaced. It is currently in procurement as we speak, so that hopefully it's going to go to the May 1 board so we can get that playground construction started, so we can get installation at that playground. Second, the walk paths. There's a great deal of seniors that use that facility, that park in the mornings that's walking. So there's some design that our team is doing. They're at 60%, but they're waiting stormwater approval. So those projects are being done, I'll be more than happy to get my community engagement team to share those plans with the community. We'll find out if Mr. Cheatham will provide us when their next meeting is. I'll make sure our community engagement team and a capital person can present the plans that we have. But I can tell you that money's still there. And Adam, hopefully he can hear us, he will be online, can clarify the exact dollar amounts that we have committed, but he can explain how that money was committed and how it's earmarked as well. Adam, you're now unmuted.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to confirm everything Director Moore said. $350,000 is going towards the playground replacement. The only other money that has been spent to date is accurate in that we are at 95% of design for a new skate park. Those plans remain good, and we hope to implement them at some point. The other funding has gone towards the engineering and planning for the rest of those park improvements that were just mentioned. Essentially, at this time, we have $960,000 available to us. As mentioned throughout this, $500,000 of that was originally intended for the skate park. We made an application to the state that was later declined and caused us to amend our application to these other site work amenities in the park. So things are still moving along. We remain committed to Easterwood. Myself personally, I've built multiple phases of skate parks in Roosevelt. We're working with Skate Park in Baltimore and others at North Hartford on skate park right now. The agency is not opposed to skate parks, and we're certainly not doing anything against Easterwood or the children in that area. I think that was unfair to say that we don't care about those kids. But you know, we intend to make these initial improvements and then work with administration on funding to do the skate park in the latter phase.
Adam, one quick follow-up. The timing on those initial improvements, what is that looking like?
So as Director Moore mentioned, they're at 60% design. They're going through stormwater management review. We expect to have those out for bid for construction late this fall. I'm more hopeful that the playground improvements could happen this summer.
I just want to just add one thing, and Adam has covered that, but even in that conversation, there was the determination that there's some more pressing needs in that community. And again, no one in our agency is opposed to skate parks. And I do echo what Adam says, that we're committed to the entire city of Baltimore, and we're finding ways, as I've shared throughout, to address the needs of Baltimore. So I do want to thank Mr. Cheatham and the entire community for their continued advocating for the skate park. But to say that our agency is not committed to the kids of any community is unfair and inaccurate. And I just want to go on note by saying that as well.
Don't black kids matter?
I'll just say this, because I think I hear everything that's happening. One thing I can say, we appreciate the passion for our neighborhoods and the young people in our communities and their young black children. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I understand, you know, from the perspective of Rec and Parks, again, caring about young people, but then also how that shows up in the budget and shows up in the construction. So I think we're all on the same page, but hopefully we can get closer together. So I appreciate that, the passion and also the follow through. So again, as you've heard today, it clearly is an issue, and I know we'll work together to try to make that happen. I also want to ask if there are any remaining questions from members of the committee. Any follow-up questions before we close out? Okay, well, I will say this, you know, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I understand, you know, there are challenges with getting folks here, and the fact that folks were able to then be online was helpful. Thank you for a detailed and comprehensive view of where we're going as a department. Obviously, there's some work we have to do, and we're making some progress, but clearly the young people of our city, and even not so young people, because you know the rec center is also used by folks of varying ages. So again, we appreciate your work. Look forward to future communication. Thank you for the members of the mayor's office and the council president's office who are here as well. And we got the agency request for our committee, so we'll move forward with that. And at this point, we will then stand adjourned. So have a good evening.